with Nikki Buckelew and Eunice Khoury and Patrick Munnerlin. We usually have about 150, 200 people in person at these events. So we're delighted to do it via Zoom. Hopefully we'll be back to in-person seminars at some point in the near future. But thank you, Nikki, for joining us today and moderating us. And Patrick Munnerlin and Eunice Khoury with Well Preserved. Nikki is a downsizing coach, and many of you also know her as the founder of Downsizing Made Easy and the Senior Living Truth Series. So we're pleased to have you all here today to bring us the truth about the money and how do you pay for senior living. So before we get started, I do want to mention a couple of things. Many of you have questions, and there are two options to ask questions. One is the one that we prefer. There's a Q&A that you could type in your question on your computer. Please use that option instead of the chat feature. And then another option is you can call into the marketing office at Spanish Cove. Cindy and Susan and Stephanie are on standby to take questions that we could ask. Everybody's probably thinking about questions, but please don't hesitate to call us with a question if you don't want to type it in. And that phone number is 354-5906. Again, that's 354-5906. So thank you all for joining us, and thank you to our expert panel. I'm going to hand it over to Nikki Buckelew.
All right. You know, I love doing this topic because I always learn something new. And I think the last time, Eunice, we did this, I thought to myself, oh, we've got this down. Like, we've done this so many times. And I was shocked that there was some new information that I gleaned from that. And then I thought, oh my gosh, there's always something new, right? And so Patrick, being on the kind of on the financial side of things, I absolutely know I'm going to learn something new today because that is out of my wheelhouse. And so I'm excited to learn a little bit about that. And so just to kind of open the door right now to relevant day and time, right? I had asked you guys yesterday, I think Jill sent an email to you saying, gosh, what is the number one question you're getting right now from people that are calling your office or talking to you on email and saying, I have concerns, tell me about this. What's the number one question? And I don't care. Let's go, Patrick, since I have you in the top left of my screen, and we'll start at the top and work our way around. What's the number one question you're getting right now from people, say, 65 and older?
Well, sure. You know, we do a lot of Medicare planning. First of all, Jill, Nikki, thanks for having me on here. I always enjoy being on this panel. Matter of fact, anytime I talk to anyone about Spanish Cove, I always mention they have a regatta team there. If you guys like to do something fun, they have a regatta team. So yeah, I always love telling our clients about that. But you know, one thing that we get asked often in this pandemic and then in general is, well, first is how do you get enrolled into, you know, Medicare and the transition to health? And also, you know, how do you not outlive your money? How do you protect it?
Yeah.
What does a retirement look like? You go from an accumulation portion of your life, meaning that you're funding all these accounts, and then now you're transitioning into Medicare, which is a huge transition all into itself. And then you're transitioning into drawing your money, drawing down on your assets. So you go from accumulation to distribution, and then there's kind of this gray area of when do you start that? How do you plan? What do you invest in? And that's the biggest challenge right there, is where to reposition assets so you don't outlive your money. And not only that, but if you had a long-term care event going on, how does that look with those dollars too? So the big thing is the fear associated with COVID-19, just like any downturn market. Our clients have money invested in the market, so they have to let it rebound in order to, you know, draw down an asset or to feel comfortable. It's what they're going through, you know.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is it's not just one question, it's one question that leads to another, that leads to another, that leads to another, right?
That's a planning process. It's a little bit, you want to keep it simple, but you kind of, it's like the big elephant. How do you need an elephant? One bite at a time. You got to eat Medicare one bite at a time. Then you have to tackle your retirement planning one bite at a time. It's a transition that takes a couple of months, but maybe to feel comfortable is to the individual, you know?
Okay, so hold that thought, because we're going to circle back and answer some of those hard questions that you just talked about and give some guidance on that. Eunice, I know you and Patrick work in the same office and kind of have more of a comprehensive approach, but are there any other like really hard questions or questions that people are calling in about in light of the current circumstances that you hear about?
Well, you mentioned, or Patrick mentioned, the word fear. And one of the unique things about the programs you bring together, Nikki, is fear is false evidence appearing real. So every person that calls in this office, I can tell you, it's either they've lost their job, they planned to work till they were 68, now they're 67, they have the discharge papers, and walking them through that journey, then they start thinking, gosh, I'm retired. They didn't plan for it because they were 2 years out of their original thought process, but they've never stopped and put anything on paper. They have not been to how to pay for senior living. They really haven't, because they've been working. You know,
Right.
It hasn't been on their radar screen. Right. So giving them some options, because life is about choices. And what works for Nikki and Chris won't work for Eunice. What works for Patrick won't work for Jill. So looking at their options and just listening, because Medicare is Pandora's box right now, because just enrolling, if you have a special enrollment without getting a penalty, is a huge service that we offer here. So when you ask me that, Medicare seems to be the hot point right now because people are losing their jobs and they hadn't planned on it.
Well, isn't that interesting too, just as a kind of a side to that, I've talked to several people who not just lost their jobs. I mean, we know a lot of people are being laid off or furloughed or, you know, that kind of thing. But I've even talked to several people who had intended to work a few more years, but in light of COVID-19, they're choosing to retire. Yeah. And like you said, they're going, well, I want to retire, but I don't really know what steps I need to take to make sure I have health insurance and make sure that my investments are going to last me if I do that a couple of years early. So those are all things that you guys deal with on a day-to-day basis, right?
Yeah, and I'd like to add something that what happens on the day-to-day basis, that when our clients that we have seen a lot that have had to lay off early retirement, not only they had to force an early retirement, but they've also delayed their Social Security benefit, which is one of the only guaranteed sources of income that most of our clients have. It's guaranteed for the rest of their life. So when you trigger it, it's very impactful on how much you're going to get for the rest of your life. And so for those individuals that have deferred their Social Security benefit after their full retirement age, to get that one thing about Social Security, it increases if you delay it up until 70. But if you were doing that and you had to take a retirement to force a guaranteed income by way of means Social Security, then you really had to re-examine your retirement and you had to adjust your Social Security benefit.
Sure.
So it has an impact on Social Security, your guaranteed income, Medicare changes, and then the investment planning. It's a big elephant to eat.
It's the equivalent of taking a pay cut, right?
Yeah.
Without planning to. Yeah.
Yeah, can be. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Jill, from the Spanish Cove perspective, I know you guys have a lot of folks that are, you know, they've moved to Spanish Cove, they've done all their planning, they've got their financial portfolio in order. But yet I heard you say the other day that Eunice is coming out and doing consultations with folks because it's an essential issue that people are dealing with. So Eunice, these folks that have planned and have moved into a CCRC community, a continuing care retirement community, are they dealing with the same issues as people who haven't planned for that and moved into that environment, or are they same, or are they different?
No, they're a little bit different because they have part of their plan together. And the consultations that I've worked with Jill and several of their residents is looking at their long-term care benefit, because a lot of people bought those like 20 years ago. The company's no longer selling it. They've forgotten what is in their policy. And it doesn't matter if I was licensed with that particular carrier or not. I know how to get a hold of the company. And I think the last couple that we met with at Spanish Cove, we actually got the insurance company on the telephone to confirm their benefits. And then it's not coming from me, it's coming from the carrier that's actually going to pay, because that was part of their concern. Because, you know, at Spanish Cove, when you become a resident, you get a lot of perks. And one of the perks is the life care. And it's a great benefit. I call it that's a long-term care policy right there that you're not having to pay for 20 years. So fitting those pieces of the puzzle together and just explaining to the new residents, this is what your plan will pay, and documenting who we talk to at the insurance company and giving that to the residents so they kind of have that extra piece of puzzle, and it's peace of mind. Yeah. They know that between Spanish Cove and, say, an insurance carrier, they're probably going to be ahead of the game.
Yeah. So let me just kind of get some context, and then we'll dive into some specifics on the investment side and on the insurance side. Jill, just, you know, you and I and your team out at Spanish Cove and our team with OKC Mature Moves helped 2 people last week, literally just last week, move from independent living to assisted, right? And so a lot of times, you just like, that's when their long-term care insurance kicks in, right? That's when they start utilizing that benefit.
Correct.
And so how has COVID affected people's moving from independent living, whether it's at home or independent living like at Spanish Cove, into assisted? Are we seeing an increased number of people doing that right now? Is there kind of a surge? Jill, can you speak to that at all?
Sure. So, yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank Nikki. You and your team made those transitions really, really so stress-free for their families, for the residents, for our staff. And Eunice, thank you too for coming out throughout the coronavirus pandemic too, and meeting with our residents and their families and evaluating their money, because some of them may have had long-term care insurance and some of them didn't. But the nice thing is that most of them had the life care program, which we'll talk about later. So it's, like Eunice said, another form of long-term care insurance. But we are seeing more and more people who want to move now, whether it's in independent living, moving to independent living, or calling and needing to move to assisted living, whether it's within our community or outside of our community. You know, I think it's almost 70% of the people over 65 will need some form of care. And when this pandemic is going on, and I know we talk about fear, it is pretty scary, and a lot of places are not accepting admissions. So the residents who live at Spanish Cove are guaranteed lifetime life care. They don't have to worry about whether we'll take them to the next level of care, or if their health changes, whether they can have home health care or nursing care. They're guaranteed it. And for people that are calling us now, I know we're meeting with people, more and more people every day, because they want to make a plan, take some action. Because if we do have the virus that hits us, second round of this pandemic, it's pretty scary if you fall or have hip replacement. And even though you're really independent, and even after that surgery, you could be very independent, who's going to take care of you for that therapy? There are many places that aren't taking admissions. So, Eunice has been screened many times on our campus to meet with people. You wear a mask, you have the PPE, you're following our guidelines, you're allowed to meet with people. Nikki, you and your team are wearing PPE, and they're approved movers, approved vendors on our community. Patrick, you said you had a family member building cabinets. He is too. So it's real important to have a trusted group of people that you could rely on and help you.
Yeah.
So Jill, they asked me the other day, they said, have you been screened? And I said, well, I can't count, but maybe 10 times this week, I'm thinking, give or take. So, okay. So I just want to point something out that I kind of heard as a pattern from everyone on the panel, is that there's this shock, right? When COVID-19 hit, there's this shock because nobody expected it, right? We kind of expect market swings. In Oklahoma, we know the energy sector, ebbs and flows. But COVID was a big, bomb. We didn't know it was coming. So it created shock. And then from shock, we have fear, because people are looking, and then they react. So they have
react out of fear.
Yeah,
right.
They act out of fear.
Right.
Not an educated reaction.
So now I kind of see what we have right now is this gap, right? We're no longer in shock. We've had people already react and have to make some decisions based on, immediate circumstances. But I feel like we're in this gap of time where people can be proactive, right? They can take some
Absolutely.
action.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So that if we end up being housebound again, right, the stay-at-home order, God forbid, we all have to, lock ourselves up again for a while.
Yeah.
If that happens, there's a period of time right now that we can really plan for a better outcome than we may have experienced previously. So let's talk about that, okay? So Patrick, I'm gonna come back to you. Some people have saved more, some people have saved less. Some people have money under their mattress. Some people have it in the bank. Some people have it in investments. Some people have it in real estate, right? There's all kinds of things. Give me some insight for the audience as people are thinking about long-term care, how they're going to live, how they're going to not outlive. Wait, they are going to outlive their money. We want them to outlive their money, right? What are some things that you're doing to help people do that? What are some considerations people need to be kind of exploring?
Well, that's a good question. And it's tailored to each individual, right? So with each individual, you need to have a risk tolerance conversation. What are you willing to risk versus the reward that is attained in the market? Because we know that the market is going to be volatile up and down.
Let's just say I'm low risk. Let's use that as an example. I don't want a lot of risk.
Right.
Talk to me about it.
We're wanting low risk, but we're still wanting a return.
Sure.
And so lower risk, lower return tends to coincide. Low risk being a bond or a CD, you're going to get 1 or 2 or 3% right now in some places, but that's not a lot just to live on. 3% on your investments is not a lot. It's 3%, but if you're going to trigger that for income, or if you want more of a return, you might want to look for something else. And you need to compare that.
I hear about these things called index annuities. Yes. Can you talk to me about those?
So yeah, absolutely. So the bond is a safe investment. The CD is a safe investment. An annuity is backed by a bond. And so it is a safe investment. They work similar, but they're very, very different. But one thing that they do is they protect our clients' assets. They're a very safe investment. Now, the annuity locks in gains every year, meaning that it earns interest based off of market participation. And it will earn interest on an annual basis. Now, there's no downside risk with an index annuity. It's either going to lock in a gain in the market, or it's going to eliminate any losses the market is going to go throughout the year. So the COVID-19 that happened that took our S&P 500 from 35,400 to 2,500 within a month, those accounts are protected. That was important. So
those people aren't freaking out. People who have those are not calling you and freaking out.
Right. And indexing an annuity is becoming a new term.
Okay.
That's the thing. Indexing is still a safe investment. You can get market-linked returns with an index annuity without any downside risk. And when you compare that to a bond, it's a better return. It looks like a better return right now.
So can I ask you a question from someone who is completely I'm not one of these people who have a lot of investments and I haven't sit down and worked the numbers. If I came to you and I said, okay, I sold my home and I have this lump sum of money and I want to put it in a safe investment that's going to carry me through, can you literally plug that number into a computer and give me kind of a projection based on scenarios that tells me what that might look like in the next 10, 20, 30 years?
Absolutely. You can run illustrations with multiple companies that will give you a guaranteed outlook on what that annuity is going to do. And then it will also have an illustration, something to compare it to called a non-guaranteed outlook, meaning that based on if the market returns, it could be this, but we know it's going to be this. So you have a guaranteed outlook that it's going to be greater as the annuity matures, years go on, and it can also increase because it has market upside potential.
Yeah.
There
Don't
can
you
be
find,
associated to it, so that's something else to discuss.
well, do you find that people don't invest because they're a little bit scared of it?
Yes, yeah, I do find a lot of people don't invest into index annuities. It's a little bit of a controversial topic because they've been told annuities are bad. And there are bad annuities, but there are also annuities that serve a huge purpose. For example, to pay for, a long-term care event or a home health, or, we're talking about that. Health qualifying that with life insurance and a regular long-term care policy is very, very tough. If you're a diabetic, high blood pressure, or have cholesterol, just that in general can hurt you, hinder you to get that qualification. An index annuity has what is called a rider that you can add to the policy that will increase your payout to cover those additional costs. So you can have a lifetime income out of an annuity. It's one of the most important features of an annuity. It'll pay you for life, like your Social Security benefit. But if you were to go into a home health or long-term care situation and you did purchase an annuity that had a long-term care home health care rider, which would charge a fee, then it could double or increase the amount, which is helpful for your whole entire portfolio.
Yeah.
A bond doesn't do that.
Yeah.
A CD doesn't do that.
So Eunice, is what he's talking about something that, like, I think you've referred to it on panels before, like as a hybrid type long-term care insurance. It's not what they consider a true life long-term care insurance policy, but it doubles, like Patrick said, it doubles as one.
That's correct, because a lot of people, I have a health issue, so I can't qualify for long-term care. Now, you've been around me, Nikki. I can probably work circles around most people in my age group.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons that I've always thought outside of the box for my clients, because I watch my clients that are going on long-term care claim now. I'm glad they have the coverage, but for myself, I had to think outside of the box. And that's why that piece of the puzzle just resonated very strongly for me, because I didn't have to go through the health questionnaire and qualify medically, but I'm healthy. And like I've said before, you have to have a plan that fits your situation.
Yeah. So unfortunately, people call into these numbers from television commercials or articles in the paper or magazines, and they do kind of get a cookie cutter approach, don't they? They just get sold a policy because they say, I need long-term care insurance. Nobody's really looking at their bigger picture. And what I hear you guys saying is that that's one piece of a bigger puzzle that needs to be looked at before people purchase a product like that.
Absolutely.
And you hit a topic. I'm going to jump in here. There are so many scams going on right now. And for people to just call a phone number, not knowing who is on the other end, and say they are in, we get a lot of telephone marketing here from Michigan. People in Michigan are not familiar with what is in the Oklahoma area. They don't know the hospitals. They don't know about the communities that we have here. So they're just selling you whatever is on their screen, and whether it's good for you or not. So it's better to, check out your options.
Yeah, and let me add something and just piggyback off of what Eunice is saying. When you call someone, they're going to sell you something. That's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
When you go meet with an advisor, we're the well-preserved advisory group. Right. We make plans. Right. At the end of the day, you've got to purchase something, but we're guiding through this plan.
Yeah.
So it's either developing a plan or picking up the phone and just having someone sell you something.
And there's no charge to meet.
The difference between the two is you need to find someone to trust. You need to bridge that gap, because the planning process isn't just me selling you something today. It's me looking at you 3 years from now. Right. And you're a happy client. We're going through another COVID, and we're walking through this together. I'm not on the other side trying to sell you. We're hand in hand in this, and it feels different, but
Eunice can speak on that for sure, because Eunice, you've helped residents here at Spanish Cove for over 20 years ago, you've had clients here doing this, and you don't charge a fee to consult with people to evaluate their financial situation, their long-term care insurance, and to see what plan fits best for them. And nobody's selling them anything.
Well, and I appreciate working with Spanish Cove because, you know, what you give out will come back to you. And the residents at Spanish Cove, they've made plans, but they still don't understand, you know, some of the insurance products that they have. And Jill, you know me from now, if I'm not sure, I'm going to pick up the phone and find someone that will confirm what I think is true, but you have to verify and verify. And that's just part of the service that we offer here.
So let me just transition. That may be a perfect segue then to Jill, kind of talking about how this all plays a part of the long-term care process and what some people on the call might be familiar with what a continuing care retirement community offers, but I bet you there's a lot of people who are not. And so let's just kind of, if you could give us an overview of what life care is and how it serves the purpose that we've kind of talking about for life care.
Sure. So you referred to a CCRC. Spanish Cove has been around for almost 50 years, and we are a life care, continuing care retirement community. So we offer independent living with on-site home health care, assisted living, memory care, assisted living, long-term care, skilled nursing, every level of living on one campus. So when people move to Spanish Cove, we make a decision and a commitment to make to them to take care of them for the rest of their lives. And so it's really a wonderful, worry-free environment where they've planned ahead. They don't have to worry, and their families don't have to worry about who's going to take care of them if their health changes or if they need some assistance. And boy, was that ever true. You know, even like during the coronavirus, it was really highlighted how wonderful it was for residents to be here and to be taken care of, and their families not to have to worry a minute about their healthcare needs, their grocery needs, anything. I mean, it was really pretty amazing.
So let's kind of dive down into that then, and how, because I know some people may say, well, I have long-term care insurance.
Right.
So I don't really need to pay this entry fee to move to some place like Spanish Cove because I have long-term care insurance. Is that true?
Well, it's you can have a false sense of security when you have long-term care insurance because so having long-term care insurance is a wonderful thing to have because it will help you pay for long-term care, and chances are we're all going to need assisted living or skilled nursing or long-term care at some point, and it's really expensive. So I think on average, assisted living, a private pay person pays about $4,500 a month for assisted living. For a private room in the metro area for nursing home care, it's over $9,000 a month. So if you have long-term care insurance, sure, it will help pay for it. But let me tell you what, during the coronavirus, if you needed assisted living or long-term care, good luck trying to find a place to take you, number one. Secondarily, you're going to pay a lot of money. So the residents who live at Spanish Cove, on average, if I take an average ballpark figure, they do not pay more than about $3,500 a month for assisted living, and they don't pay more than about $3,700 a month for long-term care, and that's a private room in our highest level of care. They're not going to pay $9,000 a month. So it's like a form of long-term care insurance. It works great. So I'm referring to as the life care program. With the life care program, it's like a real estate healthcare transaction because you do pay an entry fee, and it pays for a guarantee of access to assisted living, home health care, memory care, skilled nursing, and long-term care for the rest of your life. So you don't have to worry about paying $9,000 a month, whether you do have long-term care insurance or you don't. If you have long-term care insurance, wonderful, it'll help reimburse you, but you're still not going to be out of pocket that much, and you're guaranteed to get our care.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed is the key there.
Right.
So
Guaranteed is the
you
insurance.
and Eunice,
And it's a private room.
you guys have probably dealt with this like I have throughout the coronavirus in terms of availability in the marketplace while people are in this gap period of time.
Right.
They may have long-term care insurance, but are you finding that people are struggling to find space, or?
Well, if they haven't made a decision, they can't move in anywhere. Most of the communities are still locked down, and they don't have a time frame when they'll open back up. So I have a couple of clients right now that cannot move out of skilled nursing, and their next move is in a community. It's in a long-term care, and it's real problematic. So they can't get in, but they didn't make a plan. They hadn't planned on being here. You know, every day is going to be just great. We don't have to plan for the worst and hope for the best. And all of a sudden they've got a crisis situation, and their family is just, because the family can't even go to these skilled units right now. Everybody is on lockdown. I mean, you stand at the window and you wave to your family member, and you can talk to them on the cell phone. But if your loved one is on anesthesia, pain medications, your conversation is not very, it's comforting, but you're not making any decisions at that time. So this is why it's so important to, you know, my byline is plan for the worst, hope for the best. Because if you've planned for the worst, and the worst is not having a plan, okay?
Right.
So if you have looked on down the road and said, gosh, my friend did this, I probably need to get something in place. The comment is not, I need to think about it. I need to move and act and have something in place in case that happens to me. Patrick, how many times have I told you, my file is here, step 1 is here, step 2, step 3, because if that happens, I've written it down. Don't jack with me. I got it right here. I've been through this. So, and I do get passionate about it because I'm in the age group of a lot of the residents at Spanish Cove, and I'm so proud of them. I really am, because they've made a decision. And then we get the calls from people's family that they're in skilled care right now and they can't move, and we've got long-term care. We're going through the process of getting them approved for benefits, but no place. They can get a commitment, but they can't move yet. So it's a catch-22.
Patrick, you were going to say something there when I jumped in. Did you want to add to that?
Well, I was just thinking of something slightly funny, but it was poignant, that we went from the state of grandparents raising grandchildren real quick to grandparents not seeing their grandchildren real quick.
My gosh, yeah.
And but it has impacted our clients, where they cannot see their grandkids because they're in that group of where they could be impacted by COVID.
You're exactly right. So, you know,
families are love and support, yet they can't touch them and feel them. They have to see them from that day. You know, the one thing that I like that you had on Spanish Cove is how what I've seen kind of separated, where we had a distant cousin that was over in a long-term care facility because he had health issues unrelated to COVID. The family couldn't see him. The long-term care was not really in play, but they had to react. The distance was separated from the family. You all have more of y'all were able to absorb this hit with COVID, and your Spanish Cove village just sounds like more of a community and a tribe. Y'all stick together and take care of one another, and all of that seemed like it was absorbed through this huge debacle. Whether you were in long-term care or skilled nursing or memory care, everything was handled right there, and you could transition easier. Look, that sounds completely different from any other experience with any other client that has separated themselves going through, you know, concerns of health-related issues to get into those facilities. That's a unique niche that Spanish Cove has in the market, that if this case ever happens again, that plan seems very worry-free. To have that guarantee, I just wanted to highlight that, Jill.
Thank you, Patrick. But, you know, I think all four of us we pretty much try to educate people to educate yourself, make a plan, come out and tour places, because there's no obligation, but it's so important for you and your families to really make a plan, because if something does happen again and you haven't toured places or haven't signed up for a waiting list or haven't made a plan to move to a place, it's nearly impossible. I mean, we've been giving tours throughout the pandemic, but I know a lot of places aren't. And, you know, I honestly want people to make a plan no matter where it is. Right. And, you know, talk to your family, make some decisions, because it's real important. And don't wait for a crisis, because this type of crisis, nobody really expected. And I know many people are listening to us that are in our Spirit Club, or are in the process of moving to Spanish Cove, or have already made a significant investment in our charter members in our phase 2. And I'm tickled about that too, because yeah, it's going to take a little bit longer for us to get started on phase 2 because of this pandemic. It slowed everything down. But hey, I'm having a meeting this afternoon with our executive team and our architects to see the virtual tour. So I'm so excited about, we're moving along with phase 2. It's just a little bit slower, but those people really have made a plan as well. They are going to be moving in about 2.5 to 3 years, and they want the life care. And plus, because they're charter members, if something happens to them, we're going to take care of them in our assisted living, in our skilled nursing and long-term care. That's one of the benefits of being a charter member.
Hey, Jill, can I ask about that then while we're on that topic? Because, you know, a lot of people have, like you said, been to many of our seminars for the last several years that
right.
we've all sat on panels and talked about what Spanish Cove allows and doesn't allow in terms of move-ins.
Yeah.
And recently a lot has changed, right? The makeup
right.
of the community has shifted because people are transitioning, and you guys built the new building. So
that's right.
We've told people forever that you cannot move to Spanish Cove unless you're an independent living. But right now, there's kind of, again, there's this gap, there's this window, and what does that look like?
So throughout the coronavirus pandemic, we actually finished our construction for our phase 1 expansion, which was adding more assisted living apartments, more assisted living memory care apartments, and additional long-term care suites. So we just finished that construction, plus we added 2 basements. And well, it's kind of, the window is closing a little bit, because I actually got 3 calls this morning for assisted living. And it breaks my heart. It's from daughters and from sons who, my mom always said she was moving to Spanish Cove. Well, now she's ready. Now maybe she has some dementia and now she needs to move. Well, it's been 7 years since we allowed somebody to move directly into our assisted living or long-term care areas. And during the pandemic, we did have a few people move in. We only have 3 spots left, Nikki. So there is a small window. It's a very rare opportunity. Eunice, you had one of your clients get in.
Right.
We were thrilled to be able to help their family. And thank you for that referral. And, you know, we only have 3 spots left. And it's, like I said, it's been 7 years. Right. So the people that do the life care program are guaranteed a future care. So we have to be very careful, very selective. But yes, so we do have 3 spots left where people can move directly into assisted living. I'm not sure how long we'll have them. So that again goes back to what Patrick alluded to earlier, that guarantee. So like the folks we moved last week, there was no question that they had availability for them, because they've been here for how long? 15 years, 20 years. Yeah.
One had been there 20 years. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so it was like, okay, I'm ready to move. Or like you said, a healthcare event happens. They go to skilled for a little while to recover. And then they go, okay, I feel better, but I don't feel good enough to go back to my independent living apartment. I'd like a little help. I'd like to go to an assisted apartment. And so that's where, to me, it's like you can move anywhere in the campus that makes sense for you at that moment. Right. And that's the beauty of it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's great peace of mind to them and to their families.
Yeah. It's kind of like college dorms, you know, like you go from on campus, like you go, you know what, I'm going to live in a dorm. And then you go, no, I'd like to live in a fraternity or sorority. And then you go, no, I'd like to go to an apartment. And it's like, you just kind of make it up as you go. And it's kind of that way in this scenario too. Sometimes it's a need, but sometimes it's a desire. But either way, it's peace of mind that you have the choice.
Yeah.
Right. And also the residents who live here and who are in the process of moving in and want to move here, I think they do it because they also want to protect their estate financially. So, you know, we're talking about the truth about paying for senior living, and with the life care program, they spend a lot less money on long-term care and on assisted living. And that's, you know, they've worked real hard to acquire their estate and their assets, and they want to make sure they leave a legacy to their families. And there's a significant medical tax deduction also. When people move to Spanish Cove, it's not something that everybody can afford. That's a very true statement. You do have to have over a certain amount of income and assets to live here. And we sit down with people and evaluate their assets, don't we, Eunice, all the time, and see if they can afford it. And, you know, more people can afford it than can't. On average, it depends on what size apartment or cottage you select, or if it's our current campus or our future campus. But the entry fees start in the $90,000 range and go all the way up. And some of that is refundable based on how long they live here. And then there are other plans that are more refundable, but almost half that entry fee is a one-time medical tax deduction possibly for them. And the monthly fees, they start at about $2,700 a month and go up. And I'm talking about for one person. And almost half the monthly fee is also a medical tax deduction. So the residents who live here love the tax benefits too. Mm-hmm. And they know that they're guaranteed that care at a huge discounted rate should they ever need it. And right now, with wondering about your finances, you know, there's a guarantee, like Patrick was mentioning before, where if you outlive your assets and you're a resident of Spanish Cove, you don't have to worry. We're not going to kick you out. Once we accept you, we take care of you for the rest of your life. And so that is such huge peace of mind that if you know if the stock market goes to kerplunk or something happens to your pension, you're not going to be asked to leave. We will take care of you for the rest of your life.
I think that's pretty amazing.
Huge.
It is. If
you walk through any kind of Medicaid planning on a long-term care bed, you just said that guarantee on an outlive money, because that is the other option, is the state plan for you. And that's the plan that you don't want. So it's like such a better option.
So Jill, let's take some questions. If anyone on the call has questions, type them into the question and answer tab on your device. And I do have one question that was sent in, so I'm going to go ahead and ask that one. And Eunice, I don't know, you or Patrick, which would be the best to answer this, but the question is, if I have a long-term care insurance policy and I don't know if I can continue to pay the I can't exactly tell for sure what that says, but the fee, the monthly fee, premium, that's what it says, premium. Should I just let it lapse, or what should I do?
Okay, number one, on long-term care, that's where looking at the policy. Oklahoma had a non-forfeiture benefit. So sometimes if people decide they don't want to pay a premium and they can have a non-forfeiture benefit, that means that the company would set aside a long-term care benefit for whatever they've paid in. It will be much less than what long-term care cost, but at least they wouldn't walk away. Now, with that statement, Nikki, that is so important for that particular person to sit down with someone that has their best interest at heart and make sure if they have an issue, they've got a plan, that they haven't paid on something for 15 or 20 years and they're just walking away from a benefit that could be modified. I'm the queen of get the premium reduced, okay? And look at those options. And insurance companies will not tell you this. I sent out 3 offers last week to a major carrier to change the benefit. It wasn't in what they sent to the client, and the insurance company took it.
Everything's negotiable.
Right.
Everything's negotiable.
Right.
You just have to know who to ask and what to ask, right? Yeah. So the other question that I had here was, I had planned to move to Spanish Cove in the next few years, but my investments have decreased as a result of the stock market. I'm considering postponing for a while. What would you say about how to plan for that based on the stock market?
So I'd like to talk about indexing just for 1 second, and as well as just taking some time to let the market rebalance. Look, whoever's calling in has a diversified portfolio of whatever assets in their basket, stocks and bonds. You know, a simple suggestion is look at your safe investments that you have in your portfolio. Is that money earning anything? Because you need more money now, and so now you're trying to reposition your assets to earn more, but you're not willing to take the next tornado that's coming down the Oklahoma plains. We all like Oklahoma sunsets, but we don't all like the Oklahoma tornadoes, right?
Right.
So, but we do want a safe return. So looking at your bonds in your portfolio and maybe looking at replacing them with an index annuity can do a couple of things. One, if you're paying a fee on those bonds in your portfolio, well, you can eliminate that fee associated to the bond performance in your portfolio if you choose to purchase an index annuity without a fee. So you can eliminate a fee that drags down your account, which is what we do on our portfolios, unless our clients like bonds. The other thing that it does is it goes into an index. Let's talk about one index that we're all familiar with, the S&P 500. I hope everyone is familiar with it because it kind of coincides with our Dow Jones and our NASDAQ. So the S&P 500 is the index that you can participate in with the index annuity. Now, you can participate, and this is a hypothetical scenario because there's a lot of index annuities out here, but I'll give you this one just as an example. Let's say you can participate in the upside potential every year of 50% of what the S&P 500 returns without losing a dime every single year. It's either going to lock in that gain of the S&P 500 on an annual basis, or it's going to protect your asset from any downturn market the S&P 500 is exposed to. So the gains earned every year, very similar to a bond. So your potential is higher because our market's returns are higher than our safe interest. Interest rates are very, very low. They're historically low right now. Our 10-year treasury is below 1% and has been for 3 months. So getting safe returns on protected assets, you know, it's a simple strategy. However, you need to trust your advisor on understanding why you're replacing it for a greater return and you're still protecting your asset.
Well, so there's a second piece to that, Patrick, and maybe this is a Jill question, but you know, if somebody is contemplating, do I go ahead and move, even though the market is not in the best shape right now, or should I stay put and wait and see if it rebounds and do like Patrick's talking, kind of restructure my investment? Jill, are entrance fees at Spanish Cove going to go up, or are they going to stay the same, or are they going to go down in the next 2 to 3 years?
They're going to go up. So our fiscal year starts September 1st, and we had our board retreat last week, and the board will meet next week to make a decision. But every year our entry fees do go up. They go up about 3% per year. And one of the things that we do, if people are taking an apartment or a cottage right now, you know, we don't want them to liquidate their investments because we want their stocks and, you know, their investments to rebound back better than ever. And we don't want them to take a bigger hit by liquidating an asset like that. So many times we let them use the sale of their home to pay their entry fee. So we do a deferred payment where they don't have to pay it until 6 months after they move in. So that helps a lot because that way they don't have to liquidate their investments, and that gives them time to rebound back. But yes, they are going up. So people that are moving in this summer, or people that are, you know, at least taking an apartment or a cottage before August 31st will get locked into a lower rate. So yes, they are going to go up. People that have signed up for our new apartments, they are locked into those prices until the building opens in about 2.5 to 3 years. So and we only have 6 spots left for our charter memberships. So the next 6 people that sign up for the current apartment availability that we have for phase 2 are also locked in at a much lower entry fee rate and monthly fee.
Yeah. So the difference between what they might gain back in their investments, Patrick, is kind of where I was going with this. Would that offset the increase that they're going to have in their entry fee? So that's an unknown probably, yeah. But again, that goes back to where this is if they come to you guys and say, this is what I'm thinking about doing, there's some formularies that you can put in place and say, well, it makes more sense to do this now than later, et cetera, if that's what you're going to do. Yeah, Patrick?
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You know, one thing I was thinking about, Nikki, is, you know, we were talking about if the pandemic hits again, like in October. Eunice, when is open enrollment, and when do you start talking about Medicare and all that stuff? Because I know you come out here.
It happens every year.
Every year, October the 15th through December the 7th. And Patrick and I and Carrie donate our time. We come into communities and do reviews, but you know, we're going to have designer masks. We're going to be distancing. We may be doing Zoom. I love that the residents like to know how to use Medicare.gov and how to access their benefits. But, you know, that service is so incredible because just the clients that I saw last year, the savings, and this would go a long way to paying for their long-term care, the savings to a little over 500 clients was over $1 million.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
That's $83,000 a month.
Was a lot of that, Eunice, their prescription plan, or was that, yeah?
That's prescription. Those need to be changed every year. I mean, they just bounce around.
Right.
Our biggest call in the office, I bet, is prescription drugs. They're a monthly expense. It's a little policy that most people purchase when they are Medicare eligible. But since it's a monthly expense to medical, because you're purchasing your prescriptions every month, people keep an eye on it every single month.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah. Eunice, how much did you save? One couple that lives here, their residents,
$45,000. It was $45,000. He was on a specialty medication.
Wow.
The plan that he was on, they did not get the notification that that drug was not going to be covered for the coming year.
Oh my gosh.
If they did, it was, you know, in like maybe 6-point font, and they couldn't read it like a lot of the literature that comes in. And that's why we're using the search engine, because it's not me saying it. We're going to go to the website to make sure that the plans work for them. And just to boggle your mind, in the 73099 zip code, there's 29 different drug plans that are available. So you can see they have a lot of choices.
You know what? One more. Oh, go ahead, Patrick. Sorry.
Eunice, she reviewed another couple that's moving into Spanish Cove. You came out the other day and reviewed their information. And the long-term care insurance company was kind of arguing with them and told them over the phone, and they just accepted it. And Eunice, you pointed out that no, that's not how it is. It says informal care, and it probably was a size 6-point font. And they believed it, that they were going to get that covered. And that would, you know, they've paid for this all these years, this long-term care insurance. And then they believed it wasn't going to pay for something. And I can't tell you how many people you've met with, Eunice, that are residents, and you tell them, don't increase your coverage. You've got great coverage. You've got Life Care Plus, your long-term care insurance, and don't increase it. And it's golden. I mean, it's great.
And that's one of the things that this particular lady was, 84, 85, and she called the insurance company. And that's where you need to have an advisor there asking the questions, because she took the person's word that has a headset on, that's working for an insurance company, that's looking at her name in a database. And the first thing they're going to do is say no. Most of these insurance companies have hired a third-party administrator to administer the claims because they're no longer selling it. So it's so critical to have an advisor that knows the questions to ask and get the benefit that the client's paid for. And that's kind of what we do.
I'm going to just kind of recap real quick, because we're at the end of our time here. And I'll ask you guys to maybe give some final thoughts. But what made me laugh a minute ago when you said that savings could go a long way toward paying for your long-term care, needs, and paying to be at Spanish Cove or wherever you choose to move. And I'm thinking, contextually, I live in the real estate world, right? In the move management world. If people would quit shopping online and buying stuff off of Amazon because they're bored, that would go a long way towards paying for Spanish Cove as well.
Yeah. They could buy an annuity for sure. Yeah.
They could buy an annuity for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's kind of my final thought. I'll give you guys some parting words. Patrick, I'll start with you.
Oh, thanks again for having us on the show. I'm particularly looking at it just in a broad, general view of not knowing the audience that I'm talking to, but if you have a portfolio that has bonds in it, not only they could be a premium right now, and you could make some money off of those. And so I would review everyone who has an investment portfolio, reevaluate the risk tolerance. We've helped clients reposition their bonds and made some gains off of those. You should be talking to your advisor about the next phase here. Well, what's on your heart.
And thinking, like Eunice said, for potential crisis, right? Thinking none of us want to think about
like I said in my analogy, revisit your portfolio. We all like Oklahoma sunsets. We get them a lot. But we do get tornadoes every now and then. And how does your portfolio look when the next tornado comes? Because it's going to happen. It might be in a different form, but it will happen. It'll be in a political form, I'll promise you, in November. We'll have it, we'll most likely have it. I'm not trying to predict anything.
No.
But
right.
Let's have this conversation in November, and we'll make this known.
Yeah. Eunice, you want to add anything to that as far as final thoughts?
Well, coming from many years in insurance, get a plan together. Start with a yellow tablet. Sit down with a representative that you trust and start looking at what your options are. My first question is, what would you like to do? What do you want to accomplish? So looking at your options and getting a plan.
Right. Yeah. And if they don't have an advisor or they want someone to do a review, like you guys have referred to this review several times, this is the opportunity to give a little shameless plug here. Eunice or Patrick, how do they get a hold of you guys?
405-848-5790. We office off of 47th and May Avenue, 4800 Mayfair Drive. We're right on the corner. We have a really easy, accessible office, thanks to this beautiful gal to my right. But our consultations are at no cost. So there's no fee. You can come in. It's really our appointments. Our first appointments it's not a sell. It's more of a relationship.
Right.
Fit? Do you like us? Do we like, and if it's a good shake hands, and then we move forwards. But there's no cost to you.
So say that phone number one more time, and then I'm going to pass the baton.
Sure thing. 405-848-5790.
5790, 848-5790. Awesome. Thank you for that. Jill, final words are yours, my dear.
So, Eunice, we used to always talk about that 2:00 phone call, or the people that show up in our office at 2:00 on a Friday afternoon. Well, now it's like the next coronavirus pandemic or something. Mm-hmm. It seriously is, because they really need to be proactive and make a plan. That's really what I would love for people to really get out of this, is for those of you that haven't made a plan, definitely make a plan. So that way you can, know what your next steps are going to be. Most people's families think it's the best gift that they can give them is to know what they're going to do if something is going to happen. So that's really important. We all of us, Nikki, you too, you'll meet with people. There's no charge for that, to evaluate how much their house is worth. I think you call it a market analysis, and meet with all of us, because we could evaluate what you could afford, how much your house can sell for. When you sell your house, most people move to Spanish Cove, have money left over, and they want to invest it. So talk about annuities, because that's a great way to grow your personal wealth.
Big picture, isn't it? Big picture.
It's the big picture. It is the big picture. And I know that a continuing care retirement community is not an option for everybody, but it is more affordable than most people think. Right. Our monthly fees include everything. They include pretty much all your daily needs and services. So we would love to be able to meet with you.
You don't pay for their cell phone, and you don't pay for their automobile gas, but I think for the most
part, or their hair to be done, which, by the way, residents of Spanish Cove have been getting their hair done this whole time. So I think we have more questions, but I think we're almost out of time.
We are out of time. Yeah. At this point. Yeah.
Yes. So I do see that we have more questions that are on the screen, and so maybe Kathleen just walked in. Maybe she could help us.
I see one question there.
Yeah.
It just says, very good seminar. Thank you for needed information.
Okay, great. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So if
Thanks,
there's any
Alice.
other questions, we'd love to. Yes, thank you. We'd love
Yeah,
to.
so my recommendation as the moderator, if you don't mind, Jill, is I would just like to say to everybody that what Jill said earlier is right on, and that is that I think a lot of people are fearful to meet with a professional because they feel like they're wasting our time. They feel like they're bothering us. If they don't buy something, they feel guilty. And I think that really what I hear all of us saying is that take the time to meet with someone, and when the meeting is over, don't feel guilty if that isn't a fit or you don't need what that person offers or whatever
Right.
the case may be. This is about education, and all of us are very community minded. We're all very servant hearted, and we want to give of our time. And that's kind of like our volunteerism, right, guys?
Right. There's no obligation. There's no
Right.
obligation. Just
Yeah.
educate yourself, ask questions. We learn from you, you learn from us, and we're here to help you because none of us know all the answers, and it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah.
You know, there's other options too. I mean, I hope that people really realize that when it comes to paying for senior living, it is more affordable than people think. Don't be paralyzed. Don't think, oh my gosh. I think one of the biggest myths I always hear is you have to be a millionaire to live at Spanish Cove.
I
And,
hear that too. Yeah, no.
you know, you don't have to be.
Everyday people live at Spanish Cove, right?
That's right. That's right.
Hardworking. There are teachers, there are retired teachers, there are retired, you name it, everything across the board.
And they have a rowing team.
And they have
And Patrick, we have a rowing team and a bus, our motor coach. We hopefully will be back on the road sometime soon.
I love that about it.
Thank you guys so much for letting me be a part of this. And again,
Thank you, Nikki, for moderating, and Patrick and
today.
Eunice. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you
Thank you
guys.
all.
Thank you. You all have a great day.
And this video will be posted on Facebook as well as Spanish Cove's website. So you guys be sure to watch the replay or send it to a friend.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take care. Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.